Okay, so welcome everybody to Hexham Town Council here at the Prior's Hall, Hexham Abbey, on Monday the 13th of April 2026 at 5:30. So welcome everybody. I'm Councillor Derek Kennedy. I'm the Mayor of Hexham and I will be chairing this meeting. So before we start, we have a long agenda, but we are going to move to item number 7, which is on, which is a presentation by Sorted, Northumberland Substance Misuse Service for Young People. And we have from Northumberland County Council Craig Newbiggin, who is going to do a presentation for us first of all, and then we'll do the standard questions and answers. So Craig, just so you're aware, Hexham TV will be filming. I hope that's absolutely fine. So we'll hand over to you, sir, and welcome to Hexham.
Well, thanks very much, and thanks for having us along. It's a really good opportunity to come and talk about our service, because our service has been running a long time, 13 years actually across Northumberland, supporting young people. But it's always important to come out and talk to people, because we constantly need that reminder that we're here and working into areas where young people are being affected by substances and need support as well. So we are part of County Council, Northumberland County Council, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what we do as a service and where we cover. And again, it probably highlights that we do a lot more than what other areas are doing, but also a lot more than maybe what people are aware about what we do to support young people and how it fits in with the rest of the council, the rest of children's services in particular, but obviously the communities as well where young people live. So Sorted, that's the name of our service, and we're substance support for young people. Now, again, you may not be aware, but every local authority in the whole of the UK has to have a young person's drug and alcohol offer of support, but how that's delivered in different areas differs massively. So in some areas it may be that a young person's service is tied onto an adult drug and alcohol service. It may be that they are a charity, it may be that they're just a commission service. We're really fortunate in Northumberland that we're part of children's services. So my background was working in Sunderland for 8 years in their young person's drug and alcohol service, and we also worked within the children's services there, and it works better, just as you'll see how we'll go on in terms of our kind of referral pathways and support and numbers of young people that we actually get the support as well. So being visible is really, really important. So for us, Sorted, substances means the legal and illegal substances, so things that you might think of automatically to do with drugs and alcohol. So alcohol has been one, but also kind of pills and powders and things like that, which we obviously work with. It's also things like volatile substances, gases, glues, aerosols, solvents, nitrous oxide, those little canisters you've probably seen a couple of years ago, a lot more common than what they are now, strewn around in kind of parks and car parks and things like that. It's also over-the-counter prescription medications as well that young people might sometimes get into an issue with. And now we see a massive increase in vaping use. We can now support young people around stopping smoking and vaping as well, but I'll come on to that as we go through. So it's quite a wide range of things that we actually support with. And how we support young people is split into two different ways. And there's a big focus on this now nationally with the new 10-year drug strategy, which has been released by the government and public health as well. But there's a big push in terms of getting young people in as early as possible and doing this preventative work. And that's what we call this tier 2 approach. So it's around getting in early, it's around giving harm reduction advice, information and guidance, and linking everything together, hopefully that the young person's substance misuse doesn't become more problematic further down the line. So early intervention and prevention, there's a massive push on that. And we do that by going into schools, we do that by working at the youth centres, we do it by working closely with family health workers, social workers, really anyone who's having those interactions with young people and getting in as early as possible. And we've got a couple of referral pathways from things like the hospital, if a young person's attended and they've used a substance, or they're there because they've been using substances, we can get in early and do some of that preventative work as well, hopefully where it doesn't become more problematic. However, a lot of our work is this tier 3. It's more of a kind of counselling service and approach, and it's a real holistic approach as well. So we work with multi-agencies. We work very closely with other services such as the Youth Justice Service. We work with social workers, we work with early help workers, we work in all the family hubs as well. But our tier 3 work is very much open-ended, and it's very tailored around what that individual young person needs. So you might have heard of different drug and alcohol counselling, particularly for adults, where it's like a 7-step approach, or they go through, you know, a structured program. It's not really the same as that with young person's drug and alcohol support. It has to be very tailored around that young person, very young person focused as well. So it's open-ended. We don't say you're going to come and see us for 4, 5, 6 weeks and then we're going to close you off. And also we tie in with other services that can help support that young person's holistic issues and picture. Quite often they might be having issues in school, education, or maybe it's not even going into education, so we'll work with education providers, we'll go into schools, we'll work with really anyone who also needs to work and help and support that young person, kind of to build that whole sort of support network around the young person as well. So that's our tier 3 work. Individual counselling, we'll also do obviously the harm reduction strategies and information. We need young people who want to engage with us as well. So we are a consent-based service, but if a young person's unsure, we can still work with other partner agencies, we can do joint visits, we can just do a more relaxed approach in terms of getting in front of that young person, explaining what we do as a service, which honestly, it really does win the young person over. We'll get really good results with our workers, and they're very skilled at being able to kind of break down those barriers and promote engagement. So there's 2 different ways we work, tier 2, tier 3. So we've got 7 workers in all that I look after, drug and alcohol workers, and 5 of those workers have got like specialist areas. So if we go back around 3 years ago, we didn't have a lot of these specific roles that our workers are focused on. So we were a bit more reactive, I suppose. We were waiting for referrals to come in. And what we discovered was that a lot of schools didn't know about us, a lot of professionals didn't know about us, because we weren't doing that outreach work. So what we've done, we've got 5 workers who've all got an area that they kind of focus on, as well as their case work. And so we've got 2 workers, I hate saying just case work because they don't, that they're case workers, but they don't have this extra area that they kind of focus on. So what we discovered was, working very closely with the Youth Justice Service, a lot of young people were engaging with the Youth Justice Service, and there's a new thing called the out of court process. A lot of young people's offences have been dealt with out of court now, for lower level offences of course. And we see it as a really positive opportunity to get involved at that really early stage. So we've got a specific worker who, if any crimes have been committed by young people in relation to substance use, so your possession of small amounts or your drunken disorderlies, our worker will be their YGS worker as well as their sorted worker. So it means that she's doing that whole sort of holistic approach to re-offending and also substance use as well. And we found that it just works better to get young people engaged in both processes. We've also got an 18+ worker. So within the adult services in Northumberland, not just Northumberland, UK-wide, there's a big drop-off in people, young adults, dropping off from support in drug and alcohol treatment. So what we see with our adult partners, it's NRP in Northumberland, is that they don't work with many 18 to 25-year-olds, and then at 25, they might get referrals for adults who have got really problematic substance use, but they haven't been open or aware of services aware of them up until that point. And there's a real drop off. So we've developed the 18+ worker. We've got a worker who just works with 18 to 25. Quite often they're from the leaving care service, or they've had social work involvement. Typically quite chaotic lifestyles, and again she'll have that more of a young person centered approach which they kind of react better to. So it is about, you know, an adult treatment might send a letter, and if they don't respond to that letter they get closed off, whereas our work will go out and do a lot more outreach and keep on being a bit more persistent, I suppose. And again, that works better for engagement with those quite chaotic lifestyle young adults at times. We've got someone who works in Kylo House. So Kylo House, for anyone that doesn't know, is the secure children's home in Northumberland. 12 beds, housing young people from all over the country, some of the most at risk, some of the most vulnerable young people. Quite often they've had substance misuse concerns before going into Kylo House. So we have a worker who's based there 2 days a week. She's part of their care team, so she'll deliver one-on-one interventions. but she'll also be part of their education programme as well. So we've got a whole drug and alcohol education programme that goes on within Kylo House. And then we've got our training lead. So we've got one professional who goes out to all the schools, who delivers training to professionals, different teams across Northumberland. She does assemblies, she does group work sessions, targeted group work sessions, she goes to youth clubs, basically anywhere where young people are going to be, or professionals work with young people, and we really upskill those workers and also talk about the trends that we're seeing in Northumberland and specific areas, because Northumberland's so big, as we know. It's got its own little trends going on, which we'll come on to. So we've got that training. That training then leads into a better referral pathway, and it also means that workers are more knowledgeable about what's going on in the area, but also then what to do and what we do, because then they're obviously selling the service to the young people that they're referring in as well. So again, now that we're doing that, we've had an increase in referrals, and it's because we've got better referral pathways. So you kind of miss the fact that vaping has become a huge issue over the last couple of years, particularly with young people. So we were getting referrals from schools asking for support around young people where they were problematically vaping, so they weren't able to get through the lessons during the day, very disruptive, going to the toilets to use, also using things that they didn't know what was in these vapes. That's again an emerging issue that we're dealing with and we're seeing. But we weren't able to previously work with just nicotine because we weren't commissioned to do so. But I identified that there was a big gap there because the Stop Smoking service weren't able to then support young people around vaping because they were supporting adults to help them stop smoking, and sometimes vaping was used as a tool to help them do that. So again, there was a big gap there for where these young people go for support, and it just made sense to me that we're the right service for them. So we've worked closely with public health, and we've been given a grant from the Stop Smoking service to support young people around problematic vaping and smoking. So again, that is now 6 months into its start, and we've now just been given extra funding to carry that on again for another year. That work is at full capacity pretty much within the 5 months that's just been working. So that there's a massive need for it. And we see it in 3 different areas as problematic really. So you've got your addiction to nicotine, which is very high because again, some of these young people are using vapes all of the time and they're really high strength. Some of the time they don't know how high strength they are. So you've got the addiction side of it. You've also got the fact that like other substances, there's now a bit of a market in terms of like exploitation of young people in terms of dealing, the same way that other kind of traditional drugs have gone down. But then also we've got the you don't know what's in them issue. So quite a lot of young people are using what they believe to be liquid THC, liquid cannabis in vaping pens, dab pens, but actually it's more likely to be spice. When tests have been done, around 50% of what's been tested was spice. There was around 20% that was actual THC from cannabis, and then it was other substances, or sometimes just nothing at all, or just nicotine. So again, you can see how dangerous it is that young people are using potentially substances that are having a much stronger reaction on the body. So again, we're working on those 3 different areas to try and support young people around that. So this is where we get all of our referrals from. So I mentioned right at the start, other services might be linked to adult services. They might just have one worker working with young people. One locally in our northeast region was attached onto just their youth justice service, so they were only getting referrals from their youth justice service. So you can see we get referrals from a massive wide range of different referral pathways, which is great, and it means that obviously we're getting into those different areas and supporting young people. And as a byproduct of that, we were one of only 2 of the northeast regions that were working with expected numbers in treatment. So we were meeting that need in Northumberland, where we had an expected number of treatment through all of the data that's collected by National Drugs Database, which everyone feeds into. Us in Sunderland were the only 2 services that were actually meeting that need. And funnily, they're the other services that are linked to the children's services as well. So it shows that the way that we do it works. Now, don't expect you to read all that, but this is all the data that we'll gather. So we'll gather data on where these referrals are coming from, how old the young person is. The age distribution, by the way, has come down, but that is because we're getting in earlier and we're promoting those earlier referrals. And obviously now we're supporting around vaping and smoking as well, and young people are starting to vape and smoke younger, unfortunately. But those referral agencies, the age, you know, the numbers that we've had in through that year, we've worked with over a quarter period, 173 young people. At any time we've got around 120 to 100 young people on our caseload. So obviously within that quarter we've worked with 173 young people, varying from that tier 2 low level support through to that tier 3 more complex support. And young people can be open from as little as kind of 1-2 sessions up to kind of 12 months really, or just however long they need. So I've just chucked this slide in. Hexham. So is anything different happening in Hexham? From what we see, we would say no. Typically Hexham is having the same sort of issues as other areas across the northeast. Well, Northumberland first and foremost, but also the northeast as a whole. So I wanted to just give you a little bit of a picture of what we see. So the northeast, there's nothing happening in the northeast that is like strikingly worrying from what we're seeing nationally. However, we do have higher alcohol use, and that's in adults and young people. In response to that, there's an alcohol strategy being set up by Public Health, which we're part of. So we feed in from a young person's point of view, but there's lots of services for adults around alcohol. Cannabis is the most common substance that we're dealing with, and that goes across the whole of Northumberland. And it's also the highest nationally. It's the substance that most young people go into treatment for, so under 18s going into treatment for cannabis, and followed by alcohol. We also see some stimulant use, so things like cocaine, ecstasy. We have seen a big increase in ketamine, and again, you may or may not have heard about that. That's a national issue, so we're seeing it in every other area. In terms of trends, we typically see trends come up the country, so we see them in the northeast pretty late on. So that's, in a way, that's a good thing because we can kind of preempt what we're going to see coming through. So further down the country at the moment, particularly in the adult services, there's a big issue around a thing called nitazines. These are man-made opiates, very, very strong, and they've been mixed in with other substances which are causing death in adult populations. We are kind of seeing that in our adult treatment now, so we're obviously concerned that you might see a little bit of that within the young persons as well. Young persons and adult treatment are very, very different. So adults typically see more around kind of opiate, crack cocaine use, heavy alcohol use. Young persons is more around cannabis use, some stimulant use, and alcohol use as well. And again, thankfully, obviously we see lower level kind of use of all substances, so it's quite rare that it's getting to the point where it would cause risk to life in terms of young persons' use, but it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And again, that's in every area though, not just Northumberland and not just Hexham as well. We do have some extra areas of concern, things like the borders and in Hexham as well, where we're worried about exploitation. So we've had issues where we've been contacted by police and by schools who are worried about things going on in the area, and what we're very much involved in that. So we've got an exploitation team that we sit with as well, and we'll go on multi-agency calls with the police, obviously with the exploitation team, risk outside the home team they're called, and then obviously the youth justice service and us as well. And we'll see what can we do about that. So we've linked in with the Hexham School, we've linked in with the PCs local to this area, and we've gone on calls and we've said what can we do to disrupt that. So there's been different strategies and different kind of meetings in place to see what can we do. As a result, we've done assemblies in the schools, we've done small group work sessions in the schools, we get referrals from the schools, and we do that work on an individual basis as well. Now, what we've also done, again, filling those gaps, health and wellbeing support. We've got 2 mental health and wellbeing workers as part of who I look after as well. They're linked with our service and the youth justice service, so they can provide support to young people around this getting help stage. So it's around low level mental health concerns and worries. So within the substance misuse arena, around 70% of young people working with substance misuse have got identified that they have a mental health concern or issue. But there's a big gap between being able to get that support at that right level if they're using substances. So quite often referrals will get knocked back. So we now have 2 workers who sit within our services, ourselves and the youth justice service, to provide that mental health and wellbeing support. And they can then refer up if needs be. Obviously they can just do the work that's needed on that kind of base level. And that was again in response of those gaps. So they provide support around anxiety, panic phobias, low mood, anger, sleep, emotional regulation, a lot of the things that's tied in with kind of substance use as well. Quite often it's a bit of a vicious cycle. They'll have a lot of these because of the substance use, and the substance use is worse because they have a lot of these. So it was a bit of it has always been a bit of a frustration between kind of mental health support for young people and substance support as well. So it's about kind of bridging that gap and what's best for the young person. We also provide everyone with this. It's a Padlet resource, so again I'll send this after, but we drop all of our drug and alcohol resources onto a Padlet. We share them with professionals across Northumberland. It's got a handy little part around what Sorted are and what we do, and also a link to make a referral to us as well. We don't have waiting lists. We've got workers who would act within 2 working days for high risk cases, or 5 working days. It never ever gets to that. It's always within 2 working days. The worker would get in touch with the referrer and the family straight away, or the young person directly, and make that initial appointment. But we drop all of the resources what we use now one-to-ones as well, and that really helps staff at schools doing one-to-one sessions actually be able to engage with young people and talk about these subjects, and obviously little fact sheets on each of the different substances as well, just to kind of better inform everyone around what these drugs are, what they do, and how we can help young people around it. And I think that's everything for us. So I'm more than welcome to take any questions about our service, or if you've got any questions specifically around substances, I'd be more than happy to help.
So I was just going to ask, is anybody or councillors sort of working in youth services, or any? Do you want to go?
Well, it sounds fantastic. My anxiety when you were talking was about children and adolescent mental health services, and how they linked in with you. But it sounds like you've almost taken over some of their jobs by having 2 workers working with you, because it's so crucial, it seems to be, not to have these gaps between different agencies.
Yeah, we're definitely not taking over from them. Unfortunately, there's so much of a need for it. So some of the waiting lists for things like Children and Young People Services, SIPs, can be up to 12 months long. And we know that a lot of them may need that support, so they might be on a waiting list for support from SIPs. But in the meantime, our workers can work with them on those presenting issues and seeing what they're doing day to day and try and support them around that. It's a bit of a sliding scale in terms of mental health support. So you've got workers called CWPs, Children Wellbeing Practitioners, who are based within like the family hubs. So they'll work with families, particularly younger children, around those kind of low-level mental health needs and supports, anxieties, etc. And then I would say our workers get involved at that typically older age, so that adolescent age, because they're involved in either substance use or offending. But then you've got your crisis team, you've got your primary mental health team who sit around the same sort of level PMT, and then you've got your SIPs as well. So it's a bit of a sliding scale, but if a young person was working with our service and we try to refer in, say, primary mental health may say, well, until they've stopped using substances, we can't pick them up, and it's a valid question, like it's a valid point, and I totally understand, because the young person might not be stable, the substance use might be affecting their present mental health, and how can they engage in that until this? So it's a chicken and egg, and it's always been like that. But having 2 workers to provide some support, either in the interim or be able to work with that holistic picture, it's proved to be really, really beneficial and really essential for us actually.
It's working then?
It's working, it's absolutely working, absolutely.
Okay. See?
A couple of questions. How big's the problem compared to 5 years ago? And we're quite parochially about the very nature we're a town council, and Northumberland's a big area. Is there any individual hotspots? I've been to places like cemeteries, behind churches, wasteland, derelict buildings, all that. So is there anything that's, people are congregating? Parks is an obvious one, particularly around Hexham. And the other thing, how much is what's going on related to crime? You talk about exploitation, but the people who are on substances, does that lead directly into crime as such? And is there anything, if you were advising us, I often say this, what would you be telling us to look for?
Yeah. So compared to 5 years ago, I would say that the problem hasn't really changed. in terms of scope and height of the problem. This is just within young person service, what I can speak for. They brought in a new 10-year strategy 5 years ago, coincidentally. So 5 years ago, Dean Black brought in the new 10-year drug strategy with the government, and that is around changing how services approach and how they support adults and young people. Because beforehand it was very much the war on drugs. That was what the kind of ethos was, and now it's shifted towards a support network and you know, higher class of treatment, getting in early, the preventative stuff, which we've kind of already been moving towards in young persons. Again, I can't speak for adults. Very, very different. It's kind of like night and day really between a young person service, but a lot of the things in the 10-year strategy is what we're already doing as a young person service. And again, in terms of numbers, it's always kind of remained the same. So you'll get different trends and worries and concerns. So quite a few years ago when I was working in Sunderland, there was a huge issue around benzodiazepines. So again, for around 1 year, that was like the real big focus and big worry. And then that kind of shifted away, and then something else came in. It was spice at the time. So again, that was a huge increase. Then the law changed, and then that went away for a little while. What's remained constant is alcohol and cannabis. They're the issues around young people. And then a little bit of kind of stimulant use as well. At the minute, as I mentioned, ketamine use is a big worry. So there's been a massive increase in young people using ketamine. Ketamine's it's got some stimulant properties, but it's more of a dissociative, so people are, you know, really out of it when they've been using it. And typically people used to use it in the kind of nightclub scene, but now what we'll find is a lot of young people are using it who've got really serious mental health issues and worries, and they're using it as a sort of self-medication just to block things out. So a lot of these young people have dealt with a lot of trauma, they've had a lot of adverse childhood experiences, and they're using substances to kind of escape all of that, which we know doesn't work. It's just adding kind of issues around physical health as well as mental. So again, it's around trying to work with that as a whole picture. In terms of hotspots areas in Northumberland altogether, we do get higher referral rates from certain places. So we get higher referral rates from Blythe area, we get higher referral rates from Asherton area, and also the borders. But the thing is, you can't just look at that as black and white, because we've got really good referral links in with all the schools in those areas. So again, it's like we're getting higher referral rates from the schools, but we're also doing a lot more work in the schools to kind of meet that need as well. So we can't say that substance use as a percentage is worse here or here, but we want to try and make those referral pathways as easy as possible in every area.
It's the county lines.
Yes. So yes, county lines. So what we do with county lines, to get back to your last point, by the way, in terms of like different areas, we get our eyes on all of the police CCNs, now called PPNs. But whenever there's a police involved in any issue to do with young people, we get the reports to look through as a service. So anything that's linked to substance use, we would then be able to be really proactive, and would be able to either offer support as a one-to-one, or if there's issues around a certain area with young people altogether, we work with the Youth Justice Service to see if any preventative measures can be put in. We work with the police to see if any disruptive measures need to be put in, and that's coordinated through a team called the ROTH team, Risk Outside the Home, and they're 2 social workers who are exploitation specialists, and they've got 1 worker as part of their team. So they do a lot of outreach. So it's a lot of education, but it's also linking up a lot with police and local areas as well, and kind of trying to disrupt that and trying to support the young people that may be exploited in dealing substances. A lot of the time they're very vulnerable, and they, again, this is young people, they are being exploited to deal substances, so it's about kind of supporting them through that as well.
Right, thank you.
So you know, thank you, which makes sense.
I was just going to ask you, I was just looking at something today. In Iceland they had a problem with alcohol. A lot of teenage kids with alcohol, and they put in a program to get the parents to spend more time with the children, more arts and music clubs, more sports clubs, and they saw a drop in that problem. Is that something that you'd see potentially here? Do you could work here?
There's a big shift to try and do that sort of work. So that's a lot of the work that's going on with the family hubs. So it's every child matters, families first, sort of getting in as early as possible. So it's a kind of, again, talking about a tiered system for young people that are at risk of not quite at safeguarding level, so they haven't got a social worker involvement, but they might have a family help worker involved, so they can come in and support where it's not quite at safeguarding level, but those are the type of issues and areas that they'd be trying to focus on, and then we will do that support work. So we're actually currently trying to set up a parenting and young persons group that would go on in all of the family hubs around Northumberland, and it would kind of be like a carousel. So us as a drug and alcohol service would be on one week, and then we'd have maybe the youth justice service on another week, we'd have people from employment on another week, people from the mental health support another week, and we'd kind of move around the county. So every month or whatever it was, there would be a different focus on, and families would be then referred into that programme. So it's been like a referral for a family programme, really. We'd be part of that. But again, anything what we're trying to do is that getting in early, preventative stuff, holistic, because that's what works. It's not just around, you know, focusing on the substance use or the young person's substance use. It has to be a holistic picture.
Yes, that's fascinating, I must say. And the thing that I'm interested in is the fact that you identify that Northumberland and Sunderland county councils have actually designed their own mechanisms and programmes. So do all county councils have the freedom to do that? To arrange their relationships or their processes in the way that suits them?
No, it's governed by public health. So public health will then they need to provide a service for young people in relation to drug and alcohol. So they'll go to the councils and they'll see what's actually available. So is there already something set up within the council where it is children's services who are providing that? If so, they would then fund that within the children's services. Or if certain areas might have a commission service. So a commission service, there's lots of drug and alcohol services and organisations. CGL is one. They might come and see it to a public health. Like, we would come and look after your whole drug and alcohol service, and this is adults as well as young people's, and it'll cost you X amount, and they would just say, okay, we'll commission you to do that, and they would have that contract for a period of time in that area. But every area does have its own, and I might be biased because I've only worked within two where they've been linked to children's services, but the stats kind of don't really lie to that. So I'm trying not to name other local authorities, but we had a big collection, a big forum, and you know, one of the local authorities was talking about their struggles of getting young people engaged in the service, and they were talking about their numbers being around the 30 to 35 young people, and that was actually, they were including up to 25, because you can include up to 25 if your service provides it. So they had 30 to 35 individuals as a whole open to their service at that time. We had 120 at that time, and this is not to say that we've got a big problem. They had a problem with getting engagement from young people and actually people knowing about the service. So their service was linked to their adult drug and alcohol service. So any young people that wanted to access that service would have to go to the adult drug and alcohol treatment and be in that same area because they didn't have outreach. So again, it's very different in different areas, but I feel that this is the way to work in terms of supporting young people and getting that out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Craig. I asked you to come along after seeing the presentation at Family and Child Services, and I was impressed. In fact, I'm surprised you didn't put your results up because they are really good, really healthy set of results for the local area. And this, I mean, you said how many people are involved at any one time, 174, so you're clearly quite full. I mean, in my family there are sort of people who work in primary health care, and they've always found that gap that Nigel alluded to before, which is when they try to make referrals to the SIPS team and people are involved in drugs or alcohol, it's very hard to make that gap. And like you say, it's chicken and egg because the mental health is often caused by the drugs and vice versa. So it's hard to untangle that web, so it's good to know that there's a network in between. And I think because now the family hubs go up to the age of 24, you're getting that plus 18 section as well that fell between the gaps between youth services and adult services, which is absolutely brilliant. So the more people know about this, the better. I was very interested to know about this sort of evolving situation in different drugs and trends and how you pick up on that, but you kind of explained that you'd noticed things come through adult drug use and then they filter down to children's, which is really interesting. So only two things on my radar recently were that spice was being more used within cannabis, and fentanyl too down south. So whether that'll drift up north is another thing, but quite worrying that those two highly addictive substances are now being put in something that you're assuming that you have in cannabis. And the other one is the zins. So this has just come on my radar as well, which is a tobacco pouch that's 3 times more powerful than 3 vape refills in tobacco hits, so it can make you physically sick, and they can tuck it under their lip before they go into school or whatever. And so, I mean, how do you stay on top of these trends?
Well, that is it. I mean, if you think about having the vape and smoking worker, and that wouldn't have even been on our radar a couple of years ago, I would say, until the increase. So we try and shift and move with those trends as and when they happen. So Ketam's a good example. We've sent all of our workers on specialist ketamine training now, and what we've also got is a link with the urology department at the hospital, because again we didn't have that link. So one of the main issues around ketamine use is issues around the bladder, and basically the water system's breaking down and then becoming incontinent and causing massive issues with bladder problems. So again, by having that referral pathway now, we can sort of link straight into urology and have those discussions a lot faster to be able to support. So it is about being reactive to what we see coming through, but you can never, sometimes things can hit you quite fast as well. So it's about providing that support, but it's also about kind of trying to see what's on the horizon as well.
Thank you. So I'll just finish up if I may. So I'm just conscious that the conversation's all been about recreational and drug use. So just one form of sort of abuse, and I was just wondering whether you haven't mentioned it in this. Is there those who you see like bodybuilders, like young bodybuilders who are quite obviously taking something. Does that feature in your audience?
For one treatment at the moment, no. But this, again, going back to when I worked in Sunderland, interestingly, there was a needle exchange just along the road from us. Their whole model had to change because they weren't dealing with as many opiate users. They were then dealing with young people who were using steroids and needed a needle exchange for steroids. I don't think we'll see it as much in the young people in Northumberland, but it's still a worry, and I know that some schools have expressed concern around ideologies, young people, body dysmorphia, the mental health side of things, and to do with kind of what they're seeing online, etc. I've actually done a joint presentation in Prudhoe High School with the GP, and he was talking around the kind of mental health side of things and what young people are seeing online, and I was talking about the kind of steroid abuse and risks and dangers around there. So in terms of referrals coming into us, no, but we have had requests in terms of schools getting in touch, saying that the concern around potential of what young people are seeing online and maybe getting involved with. It's interesting because a lot of the information for an under 18s in terms of steroid kind of use, I would be kind of saying you don't actually need to do that. At that age, you've got a lot of natural growth hormone anyway, so there's not. But I understand why young people do it, because they're seeing it, and they think, well, that's the quick way. So it is
quick results.
It is. So it's about us giving that education, the advice, that tier 2 information, and that might be in schools, group work sessions. If a school's concerned, we'll go in and do that. But if a young person did need support on a one-to-one, we certainly could work with them around that. That would be a substance we can work with.
Certainly, for me, I was thinking like trying to be ahead of the game, and I was thinking that type of thing is being completely missed. Because I mean, you've seen things like when American wrestling really sort of started to be featured in the UK. You're seeing all these like huge like bodybuilders, and there's a massive, the size of those people were all due to substance abuse. That's how they got as big as they did. And you find that these American wrestlers or die very, very early because the demands on the body. But you can see why that's really attractive to young people, to think like, actually, I want to be, you know, the size of an elephant type of thing, you know, and you know, and you kind of, whether you like it or not, probably just doing weight training, you're never going to get to that size unless you take that. But I always think, why is that missed on you? Is it because it's not recreational and it's seen as another bit that I think it's quite like just blinkered, you know, and it's missing.
I think it's a very good point, and I totally agree. I think when talking about shifting and changing, you know, that would definitely be something that needs to be on our horizon. And that you kind of get little drops in, like that school, like Prudhoe, who kind of had, it was around the sixth form students, and there was a gym attached to the school, and you know, they just noticed this like ideology coming in and a little bit of kind of comments, and you know, the lads kind of acting different, and there was nothing concrete to say that that's what they were doing, but they were just worried about it, so they were really proactive in terms of like, let's get in and talk about this and have a kind of open conversation about the risks and dangers, because if any of them are doing it, then at least they're better informed, and that's what it's about really. It's about that harm reduction, advice and information. But yeah, I mean, if we were to get, I do probably need to add that on. It's a really good point, because it's very current, and I think, yeah, although we're not seeing the one-to-one referrals coming in for that, I think it is an issue.
Right, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. That's really interesting. And I've been on the County Council a long time, and you forget that these types of services are about. It's really good to get you know, for somebody like me to get you know, an understanding of where you are. And obviously we've got lots of new councillors who aren't close to the County Council, and you know, it really shows what's actually going on. How important that work is. Okay, so right, so public participation. We have a number of members of the public present. So thank you, Craig. You're really kind. Thank you. Any apologies for absence? Yes.
Don, John,
okay. Any disclosures of interest? Dispensations, anyone? No? Right, number 6, which is the minutes of the last meeting. This is to receive and sign as a true record of the minutes of the full council meeting held on Monday, 9th of March 2026. I'll just go through these. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Permission to sign.
Yep.
That 7, we've got the presentation. 8 is the outline of the end of year processes and preparation for new council year in May. So very conscious that we have several new councillors, and this will be your sort of, well, your first annual general meeting following when you were first elected, just to remind everybody of actually what the procedure is for the new councillors, just to remind those councillors who've been councillors for a period, is also just to remind them on what the process is. So first of all, if we remind you that the next council meeting, just because of circumstances, and we've got the town twinning event with Noyon on our normal date, so the next full council will be on the 18th of May, Monday the 18th of May at 5:30. So that's our normal time, but it's just going to be stepped back 1 week. What will happen at 6 o'clock, we will then pause the full council meeting, so it'll start at 5:30, we'll pause it at 6, and then we will then do the annual annual meeting of the town council, which will generally takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Do you want to explain what happens during that?
Well, there's a few kind of legal bits. That's why it's 6 o'clock. You can't have the annual meeting of the council until 6 o'clock. So that's why we'll pause and have it then. It's got to be in May each year or within 14 days of the second Wednesday. So these are the kind of bits that are a bit prescriptive. But it was just remembering last year a lot of the councillors were new in post, and it all happened as a bit of a blur. So we just thought we'd go through the procedures. So in terms of chairing the meeting, the first part of the meeting is chaired by the current mayor, which is Derek, and the first action of the annual meeting would be to elect a mayor and the deputy mayor. So that's what happens first. So any councillor can be nominated. Nominations need a proposer and a seconder, and voting is by show of hands. So that has to be done the first action of the meeting. There's then a legal requirement that the mayor would sign a declaration of acceptance of office, so that they're the incumbent for the year. We then do a lot of processy type work, which is confirming committees, subcommittees, working groups. We don't appoint the chair and vice chair at this meeting. That's at the first meeting of the committee. And then if we had councillors on outside bodies, we would appoint them at this stage, but we don't currently have any. And we also we do a standing review of standing orders and policies. So it's the standing orders, financial regs, code of conduct, scheme of delegation, and importantly the dates for the next civic year. So that'll have all the full council full council meeting dates and all the dates for the committees. We'll also confirm bank signatories, authority for the clerk and RFO, insurance arrangements, asset register and risk assessments. So it's just it was just a bit of a reminder of the run through that we go through at the annual meeting, and it doesn't take long, but it's actually in terms of your responsibilities as a councillor to get things right. It may only take 10 or 15 minutes, but it's probably the most important 10 or 15 minutes of your council year. Because if we don't do some of these things, then we can be in breach of our responsibilities. Okay? And that is it.
So once the annual general meeting, because it has to start at 6 o'clock or after 6 o'clock, once that is completed, that will be signed off, and then we will unpause the full council, which is at start at 5:30, just because obviously we've changed from 5:30 to 6 because of the movement, etc. So that was a way of just trying to keep one meeting rather than having additional meetings. So it's a meeting within a meeting. If you think of it being a sandwich, the full council is the two pieces of bread, and this is the wafer thin piece of ham in the middle. Everybody understand? Right, that's good. But a lot of these things, people who are on committees, if they want to stay on committees and all that type of stuff, in the past we've generally, people may want to come off a committee, or they might want to join a committee, but generally we've had people stay on committees for a long time, it's not that type of stuff. Then, grand. Very good. So that's number 8. I think that was really helpful. Thank you for that on the agenda. Right, number 9. This is to receive an update on Hexham's potential development sites. I'll just introduce this bit and then I'll bring people in. As you're aware, Hexham Town Council met with Northumberland County Council leaders and senior officers just a couple of weeks ago, where we discussed numerous things. It was only an hour meeting, but we had an agenda. We were really strict on the agenda as to what we wanted to speak to. So a number of the items in that meeting were about the potential development sites. So I think I'll bring in both Suzanne and Penny to talk about the Hexham Middle School.
Well, yes, they promised us that everything was underway, that people were interested in the site. So things were open to tender. We raised the issues about social housing percentages being more than just the care home that's going to be on site that takes discharge from hospitals. It's a brilliant setup, but we wanted the numbers to reflect more than just that building. And they have more or less sort of said that they were very, very keen on doing affordable rent and affordable housing, and I think you probably prompted them on social again after I'd asked, and they were saying affordable rent was what they meant by that. So they seem quite positive. They know the housing targets that have to be hit that came from Coasts and Castles and Carbon, roughly saying that we need about 500 social homes, and that is the key site to meet that demand. So I talked to Councillor Oliver afterwards to discuss where those figures had come from. So they know that it's a key site for that, and they could have sold it off long ago to commercial developers quite quickly, and they haven't. So following our survey that we ran about 2 years ago on use for it, they have been sticking to that so far. So we shall see. The fell side isn't part of the outline plan, but there are moves for that one, aren't there?
Yeah, so I think this is quite interesting really, is that it was good that we had this meeting because we could raise these issues. But obviously the term affordable housing is something within which you can hide all sorts of nonsense, because for most people affordable housing is not affordable because of the formula that's applied. So I think the fact that we were having this conversation, and we have to keep referring back to the survey that we did, where the results that were substantial, but it was in the 90% for having Fellside as a community venue, for keeping the community garden, for having a proper mix of housing, which included social housing, and that was the survey of people who lived in the area. So I think that we have to be vigilant, but it is coming to fruition. We're having a separate conversation about Fellside because it wasn't on the original plans, but in the meeting they said that they were just offering the developers the whole site, so we would question them about that. Because there should be other plans for Fellside.
Very good. Okay. The old bus station. So, if just correct me if I'm wrong on this. So, obviously the old bus station is quite a sizable plot of land. There was mention that there was potential thoughts. I'm not saying plan application because I don't think it was anywhere near that, but it was more sort of like initial thoughts about potential of the removal of the ropery and put some housing in and around that area. So thoughts are starting to be taken.
Yeah, it was pre-app, so it's at the pre-app stage where it was, as you say, it's a big site, So it was the two bits of land to the left and right of the actual building that were being looked at for flats. So that's a pre-app thing.
Yeah, so it sounds as though something may be happening.
Yes, Matt, I wasn't quite clear at the end of that meeting. Does that mean that there is going to be movement on this, or is it another dance around? I mean, the dice are still own the site.
Yeah.
And they're apparently resolving to develop it rather than try and sell it back to the county council.
With a pre-application, if you own a piece of land and you did a pre-application and then got authority to build, let's say, a number of flats or whatever it may be, you could then sell that as a block and say, because obviously that land is then worth more than just it being raw land. So who's to know? But obviously it's like 9 years, I think, since we came here in 2017, and wowed us with all the plans for the bus station. And I've always said it always takes 10 years for things to happen in Hexham. So I'm kind of going to be right again, which is terrible. I wish I wasn't. But yeah, so it sounds as though something maybe there, which is you find rather alarming, because you think the housing demands in Hexham are quite significant, and you're just thinking, like, why can't some houses be built there? I just find that quite surprising. Very good. Toilets, any news on toilets?
No, the Portaloos have arrived for the park run down near the Time Green toilets that broke about 3 weeks ago, was that?
Yeah.
Park run down there. Lots of very desperate runners going behind the building. So yes, they have mediated that now. What bothers me the most about it is that there's no explanation on the doors. There's no, this will take X amount of weeks. There's nothing. So I would like, if you could, to follow up with NCC to get at least a sign up saying what's happening there, because I'm fed up of my partner being interrupted by asking me when it's going to.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, the communication to the county councillors to say, look, this is now, we've had to close these due to this is public sanitation, and they're not even communicating with us as county councillors to say, look, we've had to close these due to X, they're going to be closed for Y, and the mitigation is Z. We don't hear a thing until we get people go like, oh, I tried, the toilet was closed, and then you're trying to like ask questions, and they're like, oh yeah, we know. Like,
well, something's happened because it was reported, but I think the councillor who on that bit of town isn't actually on the town council, so it possibly isn't feedback like that.
Yeah, but as three county councillors in Hexham, they shouldn't just go like, oh, I'll tell them one, not the other, and bring me in.
I will say, with the council hat and Parkrun, I asked for some toilet facilities to be provided, and to the credit they did just like that, so it was very instant.
But it should, the communication is really poor on that, honestly. Right, the West Road, was there any updates?
Yes, specifically around that. I mean, along with some of the other things, it was all a bit of a fudge really, but we were told that they were going to replace the sign, so at least you can read it, and that it is being proactively marketed, and they've had several people interested. And when I sort of made the suggestion that maybe they were asking too much money for it, and that's why nobody can make anything work on that site, that was just ignored. So, but she did say that if a new sign put up, but that was what, 2 weeks ago, and the same sign is still there.
Was April Fool's Day?
Sorry?
Was April Fool's Day?
Yeah, that's a good point. So no, not really, but that's what they told us.
No, so we did actually raise it with them. Thanks for reminding me fair on that one. The police houses, well, if you peer through, you can see that there's JCBs on site there, and things are actually taking place, which is good after all those years of inactivity. No, I don't think so. I think we'll just keep that on until we see the end of that development sector. Union Workhouse.
Pre-app was in on that as well.
Pre-application on that one.
As the bus station.
So is that another development?
Yeah. The shambles. So the other part of the shambles work, and remember this we asked for this to start in February 2025. We're now in April 26. Obviously they did the work with the shambles, but part of that was also to do the parking arrangements in the market square as part of the shambles work. Due to them starting in the back end of May and it getting too late, we had all those conversations. And because the winter being the winter, they couldn't do it, which I always find really hard to, when people say that, really hard to ascertain, because the winter is always the winter. So they said they're going to start the work on the movement of where the car parking arrangements are going to be outside the shambles in the marketplace, and that was going to start, was it April? Last week. Yeah, that was in April, so we'll wait to see that work. So there'll be a reconfiguration of the car parking places there.
Does that include the 2 disabled parking spaces?
No, it doesn't, but I did raise that again with them, because I really, it doesn't. Cycle path, what have we got?
Yeah, there's little bits of teething issues with bus stops and occasionally crossings and traffic lights going down, but on the whole it's looking like it's on schedule. I'm meeting the climate officer for this week to talk about the tree replanting that they're doing to replace the bits and bobs that they've taken down between Corbridge and Hexham. Because I gave them a map of where to plant key trees should they need it, so I told them through what's going to go in along that avenue this week.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, because I met with them in Corbridge, and they did say by July they should have done, I think, this section out. They should have finished up to Mole and bus, but I'm worried because they can put multiple teams on, and they've only got one team at the moment. They're on the other side, so they think, okay, it's April now, so just going to
Keep
make sure
pressure
on.
When I say it's on target at the moment, yes, it could.
Sometimes the teams come off and on again. So just need to make sure.
Chair,
Yes.
turn it back a little bit.
Yeah.
The discussion around the shambles and pedestrianisation has I've changed my view.
Could we bring that up just to be kind of just go through this list and we'll come back, because I didn't want to come back on that. Because that was spoke about at the railway buildings and water tower.
Well, just the arch, there was a new government initiative to allow for regeneration around railway sites and arch, and they were following up with the railway houses with Arch, who are owned by Blackstone, who the council are currently working with on the Camus site, the AI site. So we did prod that, and they said that they were going to.
The West End Methodist, that's now for sale, is that correct?
There's no board up yet. We were expecting it by, but it's not yet.
Do we know how much it's going up for?
No, we've asked the question, but not.
You buy?
Yeah, put a bid in. I put a bid in for the community centre.
Very good. The Rob's Field site, do you want to speak about this one? You spoke.
Sorry.
It's the Yorkshire Trade. Can we change that to Yorkshire Trading site? Yorkshire Trading site, because you.
I'm really disappointed in politics generally. We all remember Guy Opperman said, there's £500,000 in the county council budget, and then it was bought by Yorkshire Trading, where another 20,000 might have even secured it. So I brought it up as an issue. I just have a general feel that nothing will be done.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity at the moment.
Yeah, until there's some proper investment in there, and the county council got to seek up and fund that to hundreds of thousands, if not more.
Yeah, they said they were going to send in the regeneration team, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was what that was.
Yeah. Abbey House, we didn't speak about that. No. Right, so we'll go back to and Stephen will bring you in on that one. So the one of the major things we did speak about was the market place, the history of it with regards to various previous plans about what it could and couldn't be, and the county council said they would be willing to listen to if the Hexham Town Council wanted to do some research and speak to the businesses to see if you know what the potential future of that could be. I'll bring you in, Stephen.
Yeah, I think it's worth discussing and have a policy from the town council, because you know the 13 of us or whatever, we might each have a different point of view. There's politics is always about divide and rule. If the town council have a message that says we support pedestrianisation or not, but I think there's been a bit of a sea change in terms of you know the desire for pedestrianisation. You look around all the major European cities and those that have prosperous city centres, and it would lend itself to it. There's a wider debate about traffic flow and everything else around Holstein Bank. But I think the town council should have a policy of what to do next, and I think that policy should determine what we consult with traders, and you know we don't just leave it to a consensus where perhaps one or two businesses have a disproportionate view of how the town council should work.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I was going to bring this up about clear blue sky, whatever it's called, a big thing.
A big thing.
A big thing. But I certainly think it is something that should be immediately on our radar, and if we're looking at the next 2 to 3 years or whatever, there was money there. The money, like everything else with government money, is gone now. But I think there's an opportunity there for us to take a real good lead.
Yeah. So certainly the big thing comes at an opportune time where we can certainly have that as one of our conversation pieces, explore you know what the future of the marketplace is and could be. I think we should not use the word, the P word, because it always seems to be the lightning rod if you get me meaning. But certainly, I think there must be a better way to get a much more advantageous, superior view of what that could be. So I'll bring you in.
Yeah, I'm happy to support that, Steve. I'm happy to kind of do the grunt work sort of behind that. I think we've been talking to Suzanne with the Community Engagement Committee in terms of talking to the businesses. We've put in the strategic plan, we've got some money for the feasibility study. But I think it needs, I think this time to do it. I was talking to you, I was talking to somebody else about it today. Doing it this time is be better off actually getting the consult. I think last time there was no proper consultation to the businesses. One business got really kind of upset about it, became very vitriolic, and you're better off stepping back and just doing it right from the start and working with everyone kind of that way.
And having ideas about what we want as well, not just one side.
And this is the perfect time to look at the cycle track that's kind of ending at the train station through the new bus station. I'm sort of making some really good progress from sort of the Hexham to Hayden Bridge route, which kind of leaves the middle of Hexham. But it's kind of big gap in the middle. So I think the timing's, as you say, Steve, right for looking at this again.
Very good. Right, so no doubt that'll be a major conversation piece on the 21st April, a big thing.
Chair, could I just ask for one more on the list? If you think it's okay, it's the Matthew Charlton site. I think something was going to happen and it stopped. I think another developer has bought it. But it'd be worth just listing it so that we just know what's going on for communication. I don't know what you call the site.
Yeah.
Is it not Charlton's Yard? So it went to Carvey Stone in the planning committee I was on, and then that's been brought up by Hadrian Healthcare, who've also got the site now on the Allendale Road, so they have two sites. They came to do a presentation here last year.
Yeah, just put Hadrian Healthcare.
I mean, I don't know whether to add the Will House stairs to that, although that's looking like it's nearly resolved as well.
Yeah, well, I don't think we need to add that on because obviously that's just more of a headache rather than anything else. But we're nearly there. I think Roger's like taking on the baton for that one. And, he's doing his best. You know, he's like a dog with a bone.
Well, I noticed
Which is
that
great.
they had all the paving out the other day ready to go, so they were meant to start this sometime opening it up. So it's
I'll just put a marker in. Got to mend our wall first before they open that further.
That may be the reason why. Yeah.
So this is not a listed site because it doesn't need to be, but is there an update on the progress of the playground?
At where?
The playground, playground.
I'm going to bring it. I'm not going to put it on there because obviously that's just a short one, but I'm bringing it up under mayor's announcement.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Number. So I'm going to go. Can we switch 11 and 10 rounds? I just wrong. Right. Right. Mayor's announcements. Hexham Community Partnership meeting. So. Faye, Penny, the clerk and I met with several members of the Hexham Community Partnership to go through a list of their items as they sort of they've decided to conclude to Hexham, you know, they've made their decision to conclude Hexham Community Partnership, and there's several of the items that they're working on. The meeting was extraordinarily short, but they did go through a list, and we do know that some of the things are now being moved to other places. Some are still being worked on, but one of the things that we do know is that the Hexham Hidden Gardens is now going to be taken on by Tynedale Hospice at Home. So they're taking that on, so that's a positive thing. I know there's been conversations between partnership and businesses, and partnership and the Forum Cinema. So conversations still continue so for example, Hexham Town Council will be taking on Spook Night as well. As part of our portfolio of events. So, you know, the various aspects of Hexham Community Partnerships work is now being moved to the various things. There's still a few outstanding and we want a resolution to them. So that's happening. The Hexham Town Council met with Northumberland County Council in Morpeth, which we've just discussed, and I think we've covered all the items that were in that conversation, because a lot of it was around the development sites. Is there anything
Just the
additional?
20 mile an hour? we brought
Yes,
that
good
up
point.
as well.
Yes, we did bring up. I'll let you.
Yeah, just they said that a bit like the marketplace, that actually if we agree between us what we want, it's something again that they will possibly look favourably at. I mean, we had a lot of spiel about how they couldn't do it, and then a couple of people said, actually, yes, you know, we can. We don't have to wait for legislation, we can actually just go. So that I'm hoping is another thing we can talk about, a big thing.
Yes.
And just get an agreement of where we want it to start and finish so that we can tell.
And certainly at the meeting in Holtwhistle, there was mentioned that some of the new legislation was coming through about traffic use and all that.
But I don't think we need to
No,
wait
no,
for
no.
that. Sorry, I also remember I did bring up the heat pump or at the middle school site, and they said that that would be looked at when the tenders come in. Basically, it's not a requirement that they were going to put on the tenders, but they would look upon tenders favourably that mentioned it. The district heating.
The Seal Park, so as we know, the Hexham Town Council is putting in £210,000 investment into the children's play park at the Seal. So pleased to say that that work is now started, so it's now a week into it, and we expect it. Well, Tom, do you want to mention?
Late-ish June is probably when it's going to be.
So about an 8-week programme or so. So we really look forward to that being implemented. So good. Hopefully some favourable weather and get the work done. I attended the Forum Film Festival alongside several other councillors who went to see the film Brass Off, but prior to that there was Hexham Brass.
Yorkshire tap.
Yorkshire tap, that's right, and it was the Hexham Brass Band, Hexham Brass Band. They did a good session before, no, Oscar, enjoyed yourself, he was dancing away. The allotments, the new pathway is now being put down. I was passing the allotments and had a little nosy, did a little really good job, so that's a good job done. And Miss Suzanne and the clerk and I met with Hexham Abbey to talk about the planned lighting of the Hexham Abbey by the Hexham Town Council, and I did a piece on our strategic vision. Suzanne did a piece on the actual work that's being done with what the detail will be, and they were delighted with the thoughts that we presented to them, and there was a unanimous support from Hexham Abbey's congregation or meeting, whatever they have, and then it needs to go to ecumenical for another decision point there. But things are moving afoot. Anything to add to that?
No, it was a good and constructive meeting, so yeah, they've got PCC, hasn't it? So for their dates to time in case things need to be tweaked on the listed building.
Yeah. But certainly we know we've said, look, what we would like is that we want, if all go well, we want the lighting in before the start of our season of events, so we can showcase the Abbey as part of the whole ensemble of all the events we have. Yeah. So that's item number 11. So we've got item 10, so forthcoming events. I will be attending Tynedale Hospice at home, have a little event tomorrow in which they're taking on the Hexham Hidden Gardens. So I'll attend that. There's the town twinning, Hexham Town Twinning is visiting our friends in Noyon, in France, Picardy. So Neil, you're going to that, I will be going to that also. So that'll be good. We'll be meeting the new mayor, because they've just had an election, and I hear it's been very exciting over there, so they have a brand new mayor. So that's been quite an exciting thing in France. So that's the reason why, because the return leg of they've come back from Noyon Falls, then when we have the normal town council date, and that's why I've had them back a date. I've been invited to Langley Castle. There's an event in there, so many years of Langley Castle, so I've been invited to an event there. We have the big think on the 21st of April, so thanks for all of you for putting your names down for that. That'll be a really exciting thing. We've done this before, it really works. We've got the dog mess posters. Obviously we're fully aware of disgusting those dog owners who are just letting their animals do awful things in Hexham. So we have that dog mess poster campaign going up, and we'll bring Suzanne.
Yes, yeah, so we are. Scoop the Poop is happening. It's May the 16th. Wyden Reservoir meeting at 11 o'clock, so we're going to put up some posters and make people aware, and the key areas where it's happening, so at Wyden Park and up Causey Hill, I think. Yeah.
Will there be extra posters for us to put?
Yes, yes, some of the councillors come along and we'll just send them off where they need to go.
There's an area now where people just let their dogs home and not do that. It's a new thing, on the corner of Business Park, and you never used to see any there, and now it's full. So somebody just let them.
So the Wombles are making their posters now, because we did ask for some from Keep It and Tidy, but we've got their logos on and our logo on. It'll go on, that's tied into their campaign, we've just done it ourselves.
So councillors, if you want them, obviously we're going to, that day it's going to be sort of centred around the Priestlands sort of shops and all that. So that's been a bit of an unfortunate mess around there. But if you want them for elsewhere, maybe in the east, you know, the west, you know, anybody else want them, you know, maybe put them down Tyne Green and stuff and what have you. But you know, we'll put them in the key places. So anyway, we want to be good.
So yeah, Wyden Park, 11 o'clock on May the 16th.
Then we'll remind us all of that. So we've talked about the full council on the 18th in the AGM, so you know all about that. Anything on Grow Hexham, Penny? Last.
Yes, Bex has ordered hundreds, nearly thousands of fruit trees. We got a grant and to buy fruit bushes and fruit plants. And so there's a massive plant happening this coming weekend. So if anybody would like to go and help, please get in touch with Bex or just go to the community garden, because there's various sites where they'll be planting them. And some of them are healed in so they can go to other places, but basically they need putting in the ground in some form or other.
Very good.
So it's incredibly busy at the moment. If anybody wants to help or just even have a chat with Bex and disseminate, but the families and people coming to the garden every Tuesday because it was the holidays. It's lovely. The project's going on with the library still, which is stories from our plot. No, yes, stories from Patch. Sorry, Patch. Stories from our Patch. So I've been recording people telling stories about food. So there's lots of different strands to it. It's getting really, really, really busy. Don't forget the free bush.
Right. Neil, is there anything you want to mention about just town twinning while you were mentioning the town's house, the relationship with town twinning going and all the plans for the trip?
There's a meeting tomorrow evening where the fine detail of it will be arranged, but the people who are hosting Steph and I is Pascal and Christine, and they're very welcoming, etc. So
That's what you were thinking.
but there's lots of fine detail about what functions you can go to and entertainment, etc.
Yeah.
I think we'll get more Jen about that tomorrow.
Yeah, and the number of people attending.
I think it's about 35.
35, yeah. So that's a good number. And I think there's some
Lots
from
of
the
youngsters going on.
some people from the school attending as well.
About 7 or 8.
Yeah, so that's good. I'm taking Oscar as well. I've been training him up on his French, but that'll be an adventure. Right, so that's good. Okay, I think okay. Good. Lots of things happening. And the Metzingen visit is.
So the plan is something like 4th, 5th of July, I think it's around.
Yeah, so we have the Metzingen. Yeah, so the Metzingen visit from our friends in Germany is the 3rd of July through to the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th of July. So they're attending, they're coming to us. So
we were still short of a few hosts for that, so if anybody is anything to do with your networks, just please get in touch with me if somebody's willing to host.
Yeah.
They were getting there, but just we're short.
Right, so our next item is to agree the accounts for payment. So councillors, you have your listed accounts for payment. We'll just go through it. I'll just do it by exception. Is anything anybody wants to highlight or ask any questions on? Page 1, page 2, page 3. Page 4, page 5, and there's the bank reconciliation, and then again summary of receipts and payments for each of the committees. Okay, anybody content, anything there? No? Okay. so item 13 is to note the approved minutes of committee meetings. So the first one is minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee of 18th of February, page 1, page 2. Minutes of the Planning and Infrastructure Committee, 3rd of March, page 1, 2, 3 and 4. And the minutes of the Committee Engagement Committee of 12th of February, page 1 and page 2. Nothing to raise anybody? Good. Yeah, that's good. Item 14 is to note correspondence this evening.
We've had the usual NELC news, Canny news, Northumberland CBA, Rural Bulletin. We've had correspondence from the hospital about putting in plan application for their air source heat pumps. We've had some correspondence from Cosmic Frequencies requesting support for a grant application they're putting in, but it's been discussed at sea, so it's just confirmation that they'll be receiving their support. Communication about supporting digital switchover, so we'll try and put something on the website about that, just for people's telephones. And there's some communication from NCC around neighbourhood planning support going forward, which I'll share when an electronic copy comes.
Okay, so that is the end of this evening's meeting.